Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode number 7 of the Unstuck Leader Series. I'm super excited to have Yvonne Davenport-Perkins with us today. And I met Yvonne about 2 to 3 years ago at an event in the city. And ever since then, we've been connected on social media, and it's been really great to see all of the amazing work that she's doing. So, Yvonne, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'd love for you to just share a little bit about yourself and what are you up to in our world.
Oh, perfect. Thank you again, Adira, so much for having me here. I remember when you posted the announcement on Instagram that you were starting the Unstuck Leader Series in the fall, and I said, let me know any way that I can support. And so I'm really
Mhm.
happy to be here today talking with everyone. Currently, I am a life coach. So I started my own coaching business in 2018, January 2018 to be exact. And basically, it's a framework around defining what success looks like for each individual client that I work with and creating an actionable plan for them to achieve those goals. So that's what I've been doing in my private time. I also work at a diversity and inclusion consulting firm in the city. And then in my other time, I am also a homeschooler. I have 3 young boys, one who's just turning 1 tomorrow. So I'm
Wow.
not homeschooling him just yet, but the other 2 are school age. So it's been an interesting ride, but also fun and learning a lot as we
Mhm.
go along. So that's a little bit about
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And could you also share with us a time when you were stuck and what did you do? What strategies did you implement to move from being stuck to unstuck?
Well, I think, there's so many stories that I think we can all think of when we're considering like how we were stuck and we got unstuck in our personal and our professional lives. But one instance that sticks out to me most is probably when I started Life Code. I had toyed with the idea for many years before I started it in 2018, and a lot of my barriers around starting the business itself was thinking about, am I prepared? We have those little voices in the back of our head that kind of tell us like, oh, maybe you should do this instead, or you don't have the credentials, or who would your market be, things that kind of make us feel like we're not ready, we're not prepared. And a lot of the work that I do with my clients, but also that I had to do with myself, was to kind of rewrite those narratives about how success looks and what you need to do in order to start a business. And a lot of this is just jumping in with both feet and saying, this is the business that I want to start. I want to serve people. I have something that I can give to the world that I want to share. And if it comes from a positive place, then I feel like the people that come to you are going to appreciate the message that you have. And so just starting Life Code itself was a very big hump for me to get over, because I had all these questions about, whether I was ready, whether I should start it. And I kind of just said, you know what, I'm going to stop questioning myself and saying that I'm not ready, and just jump into it and say, this is the business, this is the framework I've developed, and these are the people that I want to work with, and then just move forward. A big thing about anything in life, but especially in being an entrepreneur, is that you have to fail forward. So you're going to fail. You're going to have things happen that don't pan out necessarily the way that you want to. But if you get the lesson from that failure, then it's never going to be something that can stop you. It's just something that you have to push through to the other side.
hmm That's so amazing, Yvonne. And even, I mean, I'm making so many connections here that I'm like, which question do I ask first? So, when you started your business, right? Like when you were like, I'm just gonna jump in, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna make it happen. Did you like register your business first? Did you put together like a simple business plan?
Mhm.
What was something that you did initially? Did you start serving before you became official? Like came up with your name, your business name, or the structure? Like what were some of the steps that you took initially, just to like as you jumped in and got it done?
Well, initially, the first step that I took is I established it as a business. So I got, my tax ID number, because, we have to register these things. But after that, I launched the Instagram page with the understanding that, this was a work in progress, and that I wanted to get the message out and not be so worried about it being perfect, because, we get into analysis
Mm-hmm.
paralysis, and we want to make sure everything looks great. And if you're doing videos, how's the background look? And does everything look all
Mhm.
right? Did I say too many ums or too many ahs or something like
Mhm.
that? And I was just like, you know what, just get the message out. Don't worry about it being perfect. You don't want to look packaged anyway, because that's not authentic and people won't connect with that.
Mhm.
So it was really establishing it as a business and then starting the Instagram page. And then from that point, I actually reached out to my market and started working with I think my target client, which is basically, young millennials, people that are just trying to figure out the business world as well as their personal lives, that work-life balance, because we really inherited a world where some people are telling us like it's work, 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 and then you get to
Mhm.
retire, and then if you had a 401k, then you've got a nest egg, and that's all great. But it doesn't look like that for everyone, and we
Mhm.
need to stop pushing this idea of success and how it looks on so many people when that's not the road that they're taking. Not everyone goes to a 4-year college. Not everyone is going to work in a business for 10 plus years and then go on to something else. Some people are going to move around. Some people don't graduate college, and that's okay too. Like, there are
Mhm.
so many different ways that we can come at our success, that it just really stops a lot of people from living into their potential, because they see one way and they're just like, oh, well, that's not what
Mhm.
it looks like for me, so I'm just going to give up at this point. And so setting up the Instagram, working with my target client, and then like getting my name out there, networking. I did a couple of speaking engagements for some of my clients, but I also spoke for free. I did like free sessions, just to start connecting with people, because I feel like
Mhm.
that's one of the most important things. When you're starting a business, you have to get your face out there. So you have to be ready to market yourself and say, my name is, I have a business card, all of these things that are really important. But I think probably the most important thing just starting out is making sure that your message is clear and you know what you want to give to your
Mhm.
client.
Mhm. So you touched on many different points, and um, you talked about like work-life balance. And at the beginning, you mentioned that you're a mom of three boys. You work at a consulting firm, and you started this amazing business. How do you, or what do you do, right? Because I think we all know how to do things, but what do you do specifically to balance all of that?
Mhm.
All of those different hats and roles. So share that with us. Like, I also need some suggestions on how to do that.
Well, it's interesting. I wasn't as good at self-care, but I think that that's probably one of the most important things, especially if you're going. We're all individuals of many hats. Like, we're not all one
Mhm.
thing, and so there
Right.
are different parts of our lives that we have to attend to at different times. And so I really think that knowing yourself and being able to take care of yourself in the way that works for
Mhm.
you is probably the most important thing off top. So I am a person of lists. I love to make to-do lists, and I will certainly plan my day out to say, this is what I need to take care of on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But I also have a must-do list. So these are things that I must do every day for my self-care, just to make sure that I am surviving and I am taking care of me and staying grounded and centered. Because if I am not in that position, then my relationships outside of me just start to deteriorate, because I'm not taking care of
Mhm.
myself. And then that's when you become short with other people, and there's arguments and just things get stressed. And so I know that I need some time in my morning to just read and sit by myself and maybe meditate if I
Mhm.
have an uninterrupted 5 minutes, which is not often, but when I do, I like to do that. I also like to indulge in, like, just taking a walk outside. I love to enjoy the
Mhm.
weather, especially if it's like this beautiful fall weather we've been having recently in New York,
Yep.
the cool breeze and it's sunny. Like, I'm in my element when I'm outside doing that.
Mhm.
And really just taking time for myself. And it's also important, not just for me as a person, but modeling to my children that you have to take care of you before you can take care of anyone else. So letting them know that, when you need your time also, when, you might be upset or you just want to spend time away from mommy and don't want to hang out, that's okay too. You can go and do those things that you like to do. And then when you're ready, we come back and we all hang out together as a family. But self-care is definitely important. That's the one thing I feel like once you have that piece in place, it's good to balance everything else around it. So then you can switch off the hats much more easier when you're taking care of yourself.
Right. And self-care is not selfish, right? We
No.
always have to be able to take care of ourselves. We can't, pour from that empty cup. And I think we can create our own narratives around what self-care looks like for each of us. It's going to look very different.
Mhm.
Some people may be able to spend 2 hours in self-care each day, whereas even spending just 5 minutes per day is enough for self-care, right? And
Right.
so you can create whatever that could look like for you, and just
Right.
making sure that you're setting that like intentional time.
Mhm.
um and how did you, were there people like when you think about your narrative, right? And the people that you surround yourself with, how do you utilize, your network when there are days when you're just like, I don't know what's going on today, or, how do I move forward? Or there's this
Right.
negative thought or this feeling that's coming up. Um, how do you really utilize your network to like continue moving forward and continuing, being strong through all of these moments that might be coming up for us?
Yeah. I think especially during this time, with the pandemic and, the police brutality and the social unrest, and we've got an election coming up and it's a very
Hmm.
tense time, it's hard to it's hard because sometimes you feel like you're overwhelmed, but then you realize that there are so many other people that are also feeling that same overwhelm, and you may not want to reach out. But I feel like if I could teach people anything, it would be to be vulnerable. And I think that a lot of people are afraid of being vulnerable, of saying, you know what, I don't know, I don't have all the answers, I need help. Like there are so many people that just do not want to ask for help because they feel like that's a failure. I don't know how to do this,
Mm.
and I should know how to do this based on
Yep.
whatever, my role is. Like as a mom, I should know how to do this with my child, but I don't, and I'm not going to tell anyone about it. I'm just going to figure it out. And a
Hmm.
lot of times we do a disservice to ourselves because there are so many people outside of us that we can go to for that knowledge, for that resource of information, and say, hey, I'm not sure how to work with this. Is there any tips that you might have? Even for people who may not be in the same situation, they may still have very good advice. I've
Hmm.
gotten great advice from single friends who have no kids, and I have kids, but they've still given me great advice just because they are
Yep.
people and they can empathize and put themselves in my
Right.
shoes and say, maybe you didn't think about this, but here's what I would do. So I think, and it's
Mm.
also being that resource for other people as well, being vulnerable and saying, you may not be feeling well right now, but, how can I support? How can I help? Is there anything that you want to talk about? Just checking in, I feel like, is probably the best thing. So, I mean, that's what I do, is that I really utilize my network to educate myself. So from a
Mm.
professional standpoint, like learning more about like what's going on in the coaching world, new techniques, and how to start conversations around difficult topics. These are all things that I engage in. But then on a personal level, just reaching out to family and friends to tell them about anything that I may need to talk about, but also checking in with them
Mm.
and seeing how they are, because it's a difficult time for everyone, and no one has lived through a time like this before. So we're all
Mm.
dealing with new terrain, and everyone's talking about, oh, it's the new normal and all that. But it's really something that we have to figure out and navigate. The only way
Mm.
that we're going to be able to do that is together.
Absolutely, absolutely. So could you just share with us, just on a final note, what is your vision for your coaching business? Like 5 years from now,
Ooh.
what will you be, doing in this world, and how will you be serving more people?
Well, I definitely want to scale my business, but not in the sense of making more money. Because I know that that's, obviously you go into business, you want to make money. But my primary concern is really just taking this message that I've been sitting with, because Life Code originally started out as an idea for life coaching for kids. And then I kind of
Mm.
modified it because, I was having conversations with friends that were close to my age, either older, younger, same age, but they had like the same concerns around like, I want to figure out what I want to do with my life, and I'm not really happy where
Mm.
I am. I've been working in this company for X amount of years. And so then it turned into, maybe I could work with people that are closer to my age that might need some guidance
Mm.
on, the best path to success for them. But in 5 years, I would love to have Life Code as, a life code for adults, and then also a life code for kids, because I feel like there's a quote that it says, if we were educated correctly, we would know how to make a living, how to make a life, and not how to make a living. So that's
Mm.
the tagline is, do you know how to make a life? Do you know
Mm.
HTML? And so that's the idea behind Life Code, is that we're not just looking to survive, we're looking to thrive. Like we want to be successful, but we want to be successful and be happy and
Right.
know that we're making an impact on the world, however that looks. There are some
Mhm.
kids that are saying, they want to they want to design video games, or they want to be, testers. And some parents are like, oh, you can't look into those video games. That's not a
Mhm.
traditional way to make a living. But it
Right.
is for them because that's what they want
Yep.
to do. And so I feel that working with kids and starting them off early would have our future generations set up so well, because they
Mhm.
understand that it's not just about making this money and getting to retirement and then cashing out my 401k and going on vacation. It's about more than that. It's about how
Right.
can we give back to each other. So it would, grow into something that was for adults and children, but then I also have an idea for a planner that's based around the framework, so there are a
Mm.
lot of things that I want to do, and there's never enough time. There's never enough hours in the day. So it's like you got to focus on what you can at the moment and know that in the future you can address all these other things. But I mean, that is the goal, to have it so that I can also be working with children and have a mentoring component as well. Definitely.
I know that I will be following you forever, so just know that.
Thank you. And it's ditto. That's right.
And you're creating your legacy and you're helping other people to do the same too.
Mhm.
And I think that is the most beautiful gift that you could give yourself and to give to others.
Of
So I want to say thank you for doing that, doing this work, creating your business.
course.
And I look forward to like just hearing more about it and engaging more with you as it
Mhm.
grows. Um, so just as a final thing that I always do in each
Oh, I saw
episode,
these.
the table topics.
All right.
So
Don't
again,
I hope
I
I'm
don't
not
know what
stumped.
question.
I hope I'm not stumped.
I don't know
Okay.
what question it's gonna be, but let's
Right.
see.
Okay.
What's your favorite thing to order online?
Ooh, books. That was easy.
You got an easy one.
Yes. But no, it's so funny because ever since I was very little, I loved going to bookstores, and I would always buy books that people would say, well, why do you want to read that book? And I'd be like, I may not read it right now, but I will find use for it eventually. So I'm like a collector of books. I read them, but more than reading them, I am a collector of books. And so now that, Amazon is Prime, 2 days, I can get whatever book I want. So I just go on Amazon. I'm like, what would I like to read now? So
Yeah.
that's my thing. I love to order books online, and then they're here immediately. And I have like a nice selection of reference books that I can run to when
Mm,
I need it. So it's great. Yeah.
yeah. Awesome. Well,
Hmm.
thank you so much, Yvonne, for being with us today. It was so um, so valuable for me to hear your strategies for moving from being stuck to unstuck, how you balance all your different roles, I think is really great. And also the impact that you're making on society in our world, in our families and communities and for children. I really appreciate hearing that. And we look forward to having you in the future.
Of course,
And
yes,
another
definitely.
episode. We can't
All
wait.
right.
So thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, thank you.
Bye.